What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you've been around for a while, you know this channel is not covering everything that all the other channels cover. I like to be unique. And today what I want to talk to you about is how much trust, how much faith should you put in promoters, whether you're at a high level, sort of an international level, or you're at a local level. Should you be trusting the people who are putting on fight cards? Should you believe everything they say? I'm gonna roll the intro and then we're gonna talk about some stories I've heard, some stories I can share with you guys, which I've experienced before, which will hopefully sort of shine a light and give you an idea about how cautious you should be in this fight industry. There's all sorts of different people in the world. Now there's some people who are naive, there's some people who are very trusting, and both of those people can get just slammed in fight sports because somebody tells them something, they go, oh, of course, I believe you, why would I not? You're an honest person, right? And then they go about their business and then they come back and all of a sudden, kabam, you're in the ring against somebody who's far more experienced or so much bigger than you. And I was doing a Zoom private with somebody recently from over in Europe, and he was saying that the fight footage he sent me, which I was analyzing and giving him information back, he was saying, okay, it was my second fight, and I was fighting somebody with something like 23 fights. And I'm going, how does this happen? And very often, a lot of people go, oh, well, you know what probably happened was they accepted the fight and they just thought they were good enough to fight somebody with 21 more fights in them. But no, not the case. I've seen it firsthand. I've heard of it many times where promoters will basically just say, oh, we have somebody for you. And you'll ask, oh, okay, what's their fight record? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. It's a fair matchup. And you have to remember that fight promoters are under pressure constantly. They're going, I'm putting on an event and I need a dozen fights. A dozen fights is the absolute minimum. And they start out with 18 fights. And then all of a sudden they lose a few and they're down to 15. They lose a few more. And then all of a sudden they're getting right to that borderline. And then day before they lose a couple more fights. And now they're going, shoot, people are paying for tickets. They're going to be ticked off that I don't have enough fights. And they start just telling stories to anybody who's interested in fighting. Like, yo, I have a fight for you. This guy's going to be easy. You'll beat him, no problem. He's not even on your level. And then all of a sudden you end up in the hardest fight of your life. Or something like what happened to me many times. I would show up at the weigh-ins and my opponents wouldn't be there. There's a scheduled weigh-in time and they'd be like, oh yeah, he already weighed in. And I was just like, oh yeah, sure, of course he did. And I believe them. And then I get in the ring and I see this guy, and fortunately for me, after I defeated them, I would go and shake hands and I would be standing there and somebody would say like, holy smokes, that guy's got like 20 pounds on you, no question. You need to be very, very careful in the fight game because experience is super important. If you are in your first fight and you're fighting somebody with 3 fights, not a big deal. If you're in your second fight, fighting somebody with 6 fights, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no to that. If you're in your third fight and you're fighting somebody with 13 fights, that starts to become an issue. Or you're in your first fight against somebody with 10 fights, or you're at your 8th fight against somebody with 80 fights. These are issues which you need to look at. You need to make sure that you're researching these opponents who have bigger records than you very well, so the promoter is not just taking advantage of you, putting you in to get damaged. And then the same thing very often, you need to look at that scale with your own eyes and see somebody make weight. If somebody in your corner has not seen your opponent make weight, there could be issues. And I've been on the tail end of this so many times where people have lied about my opponents weighing in, or I've been in corners where people have lied. I've even seen people that I've been involved with lie.
Baby?
Well, sorry, I just got distracted there. Somebody ran in and was talking to me. I lost my train of thought. But basically, what we have to remember is that if you're not seeing the scale yourself and somebody's just telling you that your opponent made weight, there's a very good chance that that's not true. And I've seen that before. I've seen it so many times. There's also a good chance, and this has happened even more to me, where they say, okay, you know what? We're going to have an opponent for you, and he walks around, 150 pounds. That's his walk around weight. And then through the grapevine, I hear like, oh, okay, this guy actually fought at 170 pounds his last couple fights. And then when you see him at the weigh-ins, they're so cut. They lost so much weight to get there, and then they balloon out. And while you can't say no to those type of fights, when you're at the top level, as you're building up, You definitely need to be cautious of people who are doing this kind of thing, and it's okay occasionally to go, you know what? If this guy normally fights at a higher weight class and he's cutting down, that's not the fight for me right now. You're in your learning stage, you're in your growth stage, you're in a stage where you want to be winning your fights, you don't want to take a lot of losses. Once you get up to the highest level, you take a couple losses, it's no big deal. You know, you can recover from that, you have a name, you're going to stick around. But on the way up, you have to be very careful, and you have to not trust everybody. Basically, I guess overall, my advice is trust your cornerman, trust your coach. Aside from that, don't trust a lot of people in the fight game, because eventually you will be taken advantage of. Guys, I know so many of you out there have already had these issues. I love hearing stories, so throw down in the comments below some ridiculous story, some time that you were taken advantage of or lied to about your opponent, or some sort of situation in the fight game. I'm looking forward to reading down there. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you haven't already, join the channel and get subscribed. As always, guys, train hard, and see you back here soon for another video.